Hello my friends, and welcome back to another Brotato Danger 5 random run, where we take a random character, random weapon, and try to beat Danger 5 with it. Let's see what the game gives me today. We've got the Artificer, which we just did, so let's roll again, and we have the Well-Rounded. Well, it had to happen at some point, we would get the Well-Rounded, so I'm going to try to use this as an opportunity to talk about the differences in the Abyss compared to Crash Zone. We'll talk about what all the enemies do and sort of what your priorities and breakpoints should be as you go through the run. Let's roll and see what weapon we get here. We have the Slingshot. Okay, this should be a very strong build, so if you're looking to get a win in the Abyss, this is a build that I would pretty highly recommend. Well-rounded with Slingshot, just a very strong character overall. With Slingshot, we want to move into the groups of enemies, ideally, so that when we kill an enemy, the bounce hits near us, so that we immediately pick up the material, rather than having to run across the map for it. One difference with the Abyss and with Crash Zone is that the enemies on this map only have 1 HP, or half of the enemies. The small guys on this map only have 1 HP, so a lot more weapons are useful on the first wave, because a lot more different kinds of weapons will one-shot everything, no matter what character you're playing. Here, of course, we're going to grab some harvesting. When you start with harvesting, it's even better to get more harvesting. Lumberjack Shirt is both good and bad for Slingshot, because it does mean that you have fewer things you can bounce the Slingshot shots off of. A tree with really high health, you can bounce a lot of shots off of it. But the Lumberjack Shirt, it still just improves our economy and wave clear, so I like picking it up anyways. Grab the Slingshot here and roll. Bag, of course, we're going to take as well. Take a Slingshot and roll. Roll again and grab another Slingshot. This is awesome. Because we're the Well-Rounded, so our economy is a little bit better with the starting harvesting, we were able to actually purchase 4 Slingshots. Slingshot as a weapon, it's similar to Submachine Gun in that it mostly scales with just flat-ranged damage. That's the thing that you need the most. But unlike Submachine Gun, you do also need attack speed. In exchange for that, you get the HP, which is much more useful than the range. 2 tree kills there, that's pretty nice as well. And 2 levels. The level 2 elemental damage, of course, we can't use, but let's roll. Level 2 harvesting we can definitely use, so we'll grab that. And then I'm already at 21 harvesting, so I'm just going to take the 5 luck here. We do want luck as well. Getting to 21 harvesting is our first goal, because that makes our harvesting start growing by 2 every wave instead of by 1 every wave. Roll here, and roll again, and we'll take a Slingshot, and roll again, and take a Slingshot, and roll one more time. Missed this time, but we've got our full weapon set online, so I'm feeling pretty good about this. Wave 3 on the Abyss. So sometimes you can get a Curse Alien spawning this wave, so that's something to keep an eye out for. Another thing to keep an eye out for on this wave is that these, the Moray Eels that spawn, are pretty dangerous because they will chase you down if you get too close to them. But if you're worried about that, you can just stay away from them and they won't aggro to you. We'll see more of those in future waves. The big clams here are very much worth killing. They drop more materials than the other enemies, so killing those preferentially is the best move. I'm gonna roll here. I think we can get a level 2 upgrade or more harvesting. I guess I'll just take more harvesting here. And then, obviously, we're very happy to get a level 2 Slingshot. That increases our damage. Slingshot levels extremely well, because you get additional bounces every time you level your Slingshot. So it just increases the number of attacks you're making. Effectively, buying going from a level 1 to a level 2 Slingshot is like getting 50% attack speed, because you go from making 2 attacks per attack to 3 attacks per attack. So you get 50% more attacks with that weapon overall. Take the bag and the Lumberjack Shirt, and then we'll roll. Buy another Slingshot, of course. And I'm going to roll one more time for 4. I think there's a decent chance we can find a good economy item. Peaceful Bee for a ranged damage build. I do love Peaceful Bee, but when you're using ranged damage as your weapon, it's a lot worse, because you buy ranged damage at half the rate you buy melee damage. So basically every point of ranged damage usually costs twice as much what it would cost you to buy the melee damage. So the -1 ranged damage penalty is twice as bad as the -1 melee damage penalty. So Peaceful Bee for ranged damage builds is usually not that efficient. On wave 4, you're always guaranteed to get 1 lamprey, which is a very dangerous enemy, so you have to be careful of that. And you're guaranteed to get at least 2 of those curse aliens that give you 1 curse when you defeat them. Your biggest priority here, of course, I guess priority number 1 is don't die to the lamprey. Priority number 2 is kill both curse aliens, which we just managed to do, because the more curse you get and the earlier you get it, the more powerful your run is, especially in the Abyss. The Abyss overall has fewer enemies, and you will make less money, but the enemies are stronger and do more damage. So you really need to find other sources of economy other than just killing enemies. In Crash Zone, you can pretty much ignore economy and just kill enemies and it's fine. It's not my preferred way to play, but it's fine. In the Abyss, if you do that, you will just not succeed. Curse is a great way to increase your economy because it increases the number of materials enemies drop and also gives you a % chance of getting a cursed item, which effectively lets you buy 2 items for the price of 1. So the more curse you have, the better off you're doing. That's also the reason we prioritize harvesting so heavily. So while I like to get like 20 harvesting in Crash Zone, I would really like to get to 40 or 60 harvesting very early in the Abyss so that it can carry us through the lean times in the middle of the run. I'm going to roll here. I'm looking for ranged damage or just more harvesting, so we'll take that. And I'm going to roll 1 more time, and yeah, we'll take 8 more harvesting. That's perfect. Get some more level ups. That's excellent. Ugly Tooth is an item I used to like a lot, but have kind of dropped my evaluation of much lower, so we're actually going to pass on it here. Losing move speed is much more of a penalty on the Abyss, because the bosses are typically more dangerous. And the item was nerfed a lot. It used to only take 3 attacks for a 30% slow. Now it takes 4 attacks for a 20% slow, so it's significantly worse than it used to be. Buying both of these items, of course, and I'm going to throw in 1 more reroll. We'll take a ritual for sure, and we'll take another slingshot as well. These guys are your top priority on Wave 5, the ones with the sort of frilly hats, because they will buff enemies, and that doubles their hit points, so you really want to avoid having that happen, because they're like the buffing aliens that show up on Wave 16 of Crash Zone, but much, much earlier, so you really need to kill those very quickly. They also do a spiral of attacks or a circle of attacks underneath you, so really dangerous enemy that you want to get rid of as quickly as possible. On Wave 5, so on Crash Zone, you usually want to be making about 200 materials on Wave 5. On the Abyss, Wave 5 is a lot less money, so you want to be aiming for 150. Now, this character has bought a lot of harvesting, and we're the well-rounded, so we're a little ahead of where most characters are, so we made 175. But 150 on Wave 5 is a pretty good goal to be aiming for. If you're not making that much money, you either haven't bought enough economy or don't have enough wave clear, and your build is falling behind. We'll take 10 harvesting here. When harvesting keeps showing up, we're going to keep taking it. And then we're going to combine a slingshot, buy a slingshot, buy a ritual. Of course, as a slingshot build, we want to be a lifesteal build because each bounce has a separate chance to give us more lifesteal. Then we'll take a bag and we'll take another slingshot. 2 bags, of course, is always amazing. I love Pocket Factory. I'm not going to take it because I'm playing this as kind of a tutorial run, and it's not correct to take it here. Although I guess we do have the lumberjack shirt combo with it. You know what? I'm going to take it for fun. It's not correct to take Pocket Factory here if you're just going for pure win rate, but I just love Pocket Factory, so I'm never going to pass it, especially when we already have lumberjack shirt. It's not correct because our character doesn't really interact with engineering in any way. We don't have a lot of use for the turrets. And we're already doing ranged attacks, so we don't need help like breaking trees or killing enemies across the map or anything like that, because our weapons just naturally do that. I walk into every attack there. So spending 100 on something that doesn't really help us is obviously not right from a pure win rate standpoint, but I love Pocket Factory, and so we're taking it anyways. Pumpkin I'm going to grab. we don't have any form of piercing yet, but if we do buy piercing, then the pumpkin will be very useful. And at only minus 2% damage for 17 materials, I think that's a worthwhile speculation. I wouldn't buy pumpkin if it showed up in the shop. I wouldn't spend full price on that, but given that we got such an extreme discount, I think it's fine. I'm gonna roll here, and I haven't found any ranged damage, but I'll take the attack speed. Max HP we don't need. I'm gonna roll again. So here we have an interesting choice. We could take more harvesting if we want to get greedy, but I'm just gonna take 2 ranged damage. Our damage is fine, but starting to fall behind a little bit, so we need to make sure we're actually buffing the damage of our weapons. Can't afford both of these, so we'll buy the ritual first, because it will help more. And here's a pumpkin, which we're not going to buy. We'll go ahead and combine and buy slingshots. Generally, you want to upgrade these weapons in order. You'd rather not get to... You'd rather have more weapons of medium levels than one weapon of a really high level. For almost every weapon in the game, that's more efficient. So we're upgrading our slingshots one at a time, and we're just going to level them somewhat evenly. Killing that walrus, which is good. We haven't gotten much more in the way of curse, and we haven't found any cursed items yet. I can't complain about getting unlucky or anything, but I would like to get some cursed items and talk a little bit more about that mechanic. I'd also like to find like a baby gecko to pull in these materials. That would be extremely helpful. So the boxing glove, I'm actually going to take because, I wouldn't buy this in the shop, but it only costs 9 materials. And knockback is not terrible for slingshots because we're doing a lot of bouncing shots. Each of those are going to knock back enemies. And the way knockback works after the DLC was launched, it always pushes enemies away from your character, no matter what direction the projectile is coming from that hits the enemy. At least on the PC version. Unfortunately, on the mobile version, that's still a little bit bugged. But when you are firing so many projectiles, that's going to keep pushing enemies away from us, so it can help keep us alive if we end up with a little bit of knockback. Not something I'm going to prioritize at all, but when it shows up sort of virtually for free, we can take it. Here, I'm just going to take attack speed. Attack speed's really good, of course, for this character. Keep leveling our slingshots. We've gotten very fortunate at how many weapon levels we've found. Buy the Pocket Factory. Lock the ritual. Baby elephant, when we only have 5 luck, I'm not going to worry too much about. So I will roll here, take a tree, and we will take a duct tape as well. One thing that we haven't found yet is any armor, really. And armor is maybe the single most important stat, I guess after harvesting, is the single most important stat on the Abyss. Enemies do so much damage on this map that you have to buy armor and high amounts of healing in order to survive their damage, unless you have so much damage yourself that you are never going to get hit, which is rare. So making sure that you buy a lot of armor, way more than you would usually want on Crash Zone, and a lot of healing, in this case lifesteal, is critically important for making sure that your run goes smoothly. Usually I like to have like 20 to 25 armor by the end of a run on this map, whereas on Crash Zone I recommend aiming for like 10. This map just wants you to have so much more armor because enemy damage is so much higher. Here, I'll just take the 9 max HP. Our max HP is fine, but more definitely wouldn't hurt. And then we're going to take 6% speed. Because I do want to get my speed up to a reasonable value pretty soon. If we can get to like 10 or 15 before we fight the elite, that will help us dodge a lot more cleanly. Take the dangerous bunny, of course, and we'll take the ritual. And whetstone does eat the knockback that we got from the boxing glove, but obviously such an efficient item for any lifesteal character. Feather is great for us. Obviously, losing 3% XP gain is a cost, but not a massive one, and the 1 range damage is huge. And this character will not be taking hits very frequently, or at least we intend not to be taking hits very frequently, so Triangle of Power is going to be really nice for increasing our damage output. Triangle of Power is an item that I think a lot of people are afraid to buy, because they're worried they're going to take hits and it's going to cost you a lot of damage, but if you think about how many hits you take in a wave, even in a wave that's going badly and you're taking a lot of hits, that's going to be something like maybe 20. 20 hits will turn the Triangle of Powers plus 20% damage to minus 20% damage. But you got the 20% bonus damage at the start of the wave when you need it in order to burst down things like elites and more difficult enemies. Having higher damage at the start of the wave is good because it lets you make space for yourself, which can then prevent you from taking the hits and prevent the Triangle of Power from ticking down. It's sort of like the reverse of Wisdom, where the fact that Wisdom doesn't pay off until later in the wave is a downside for that item. Not that it can still be a good item, but it is a downside that it doesn't pay off till later in the wave. Triangle of Power is kind of the reverse of that. Fried rice, we don't have any way to light enemies on fire currently, and we don't care that much about regeneration, so I'm going to recycle that. We'll take the fertilizer, of course. Do I want to start building dodge? Yeah, when we get 9% dodge, I'll just take it. We can potentially get a decent amount of dodge if we get a few more of those. Take the triangle, take the beanie and the feather, and then roll. Bandana, so this is the pierce that we got the pumpkin for, which I will buy. So you can see here, that makes our piercing only minus 35% damage. Now, piercing with Slingshot does occupy a weird space because pierce happens before bounce. So our bounces are getting the damage reduction. But sorry, that's exactly backwards what I just said. I realized I was wrong as I was saying it. Decided to just go look it up to make absolutely sure. The bounce happens before pierce, so we don't lose the damage reduction from the piercing shots on subsequent bounces. The pierce happens at the end. The pierce won't happen as frequently for slingshots as it will for other weapons, because the bounces will often take it to somewhere where there's not multiple enemies, but it's still a very useful increase to our damage output overall. Here, we're going to go ahead and combine by a slingshot. We'll take an insanity as well, and then reroll. I am not going to buy. I really dislike this item very strongly. I still want to be able to upgrade my weapons. Even though it does increase our damage and HP, and that's pretty nice, I still really want to be able to upgrade our weapons and replace them with cursed slingshots if we are lucky enough to find one. Take a metal detector, that will increase our income, and Jerky we will grab as well. Talk about that item in a second. Funny, I said something just completely backwards, and then because my brain had gotten it backwards, I just had to go make sure that I was saying the correct thing for you guys. Don't want to let just a momentary brain fart yield misinformation. Wave 10 on the Abyss is typically your farming wave. There's a lot of small enemies on this wave, and so you should be able to make quite a lot of money this wave. You want to be making like 500 materials on wave 10. It's very similar to wave 9 on Crash Zone, because there's many enemies. You should have decent harvesting and economy by this point, so you should be getting like 80 to 100 materials from your harvesting, and there's a lot of enemies that drop materials on this wave, so you should be able to make very good money if your build is coming together. This build is doing so pretty much. We made 490, we got 36 on the ground there, so we're pretty happy with our income. Take the tentacle, we have 6 crit chance, so this can help heal us as well, and then I'm going to reroll. I could take 10 more harvesting. Even this late, more harvesting on the Abyss is still fine, but I think given that we got our 9% dodge upgrade, we can get to pretty high dodge pretty soon. Flat range damage is what we need by far the most, so we're going to go ahead and grab that. Armor would also be nice, as would attack speed. Any of these upgrades would be amazing, but the ranged damage is most important. Take the metal detector, I'll take the jerky, and I'm going to roll here by a slingshot, roll again, pick a coupon. Alien tongue is probably helpful enough. We are leaving a decent number of materials on the ground. So I'm going to buy it. In fact, I'll just buy out this whole shop. I'm not afraid of buying the weird ghost here because we have 12% lifesteal. We're going to heal up very fast. We'll take the poisonous tonic for sure. We'll buy a broken mouth as well. I don't think we need the acid. We're trying to build dodge, so even minus 2% dodge is a real penalty. And we're going to have 60 HP, which is plenty. For 15 with 2 items locked, I'm not going to reroll. We'll just go to the next wave. So, Jerky, which we just bought. This is an item that I think is one of the absolute best items in the game. It doubles your base consumable heal, which going from 3 to 6. And it seems like a downside that you get the consumable healing over time. But in reality, way more often, it's an upside that you get the consumable healing over time. Yes, there's a chance that you pick up a consumable and then die immediately right after that, and it would have saved you, but the amount of damage that you take has to be very precise for that to happen. Right? It needs to be exactly within the like 2 or 3 hit points that leaves you with the margin where you die with the jerky and not without it, which is unlikely. And very frequently you can pick up consumables and then still get healing from them by taking damage after you pick them up when you have the jerky. So it fixes the problem of overhealing, doubles your consumable heals, lets you heal in advance of taking damage, and has very little downside. An incredibly powerful item that I think a lot of people sleep on for sort of no reason. Jerky is as good as Fairy, in my opinion, in terms of winning runs, by just giving you, entirely solving the healing problems for a lot of characters, almost entirely on its own. Crit chance here is what I would take if I don't reroll for something else. I'm going to take the crit chance, and then I'll just take the poisonous tonic as well, take the broken mouth. Ice Cube would be interesting if we had a scared sausage or another way to apply elemental damage, because then it would just do a bunch of damage for us. But I really want to roll into some more damage so we can actually kill the elite a little faster. So I'm going to take the feather here. Garden would be fine. I just don't think we need to invest in more healing. Our healing is really good. And wow, we got a cursed slingshot. Incredible. And the reason that we want to invest in curse. Notice that the cursed slingshot is basically twice as good as a non-cursed version. It's like very slightly less than twice as good, but it has higher crit multipliers and stuff as well. More damage scaling, so the more damage we buy, the more the difference between the cursed and non-cursed version will increase. And just increases our damage output enormously. I'm going to buy it here and get the level 4 cursed version, because we'd rather have 2 level 4 slingshots than 2 level 3 slingshots here, so we just want to maximize the value that we're getting from the curse. Fertilizer I'll take even this late. It's still pretty good. We'll lock a hedgehog and a lost duck, and then we'll see if we have the damage to kill the elite. Slingshot builds sometimes don't have the damage to kill elites because they're an AoE damage weapon. Of course, I also immediately take a couple hits for the Triangle of Power, so I did decrease my damage output by doing that, but I think we're going to be sort of just shy of being able to kill it, depending on how many hits I take and whether I am able to clear the rest of the wave efficiently. When these lampreys spawn, and with a ranged weapon, it spawns more lampreys than if you kill them with a melee weapon. It's going to absorb a lot of the damage that we're doing, but we're actually picking it down pretty efficiently, so I think we might get it right before the end. Gonna be close. Trying to focus my damage on the elite specifically and try not to take hits. You can see there, we got it right at the end. We would not have killed it without Triangle of Power, so that's one reason I say that item is quite good, because the 20% damage, yeah, we took a couple hits and it dropped down to like 14% damage or whatever by the end of the wave, but it's still a big damage boost. Big arms, this is exactly what we want. 6 ranged damage, that doubles our damage bonus. Cyberball, we just don't have enough luck to invest in this. But for 18, I'm going to take it. Maybe we'll get a bunch of luck from an item or something. Then we'll take more ranged damage. Gentle Alien, of course, we're going to grab. This is another type of item that people heavily undervalue, I think, the increased enemy spawns. More enemies on the field means more money. It also, for a lifesteal build, means more health. The more enemies that are around, the more we can lifesteal off of them. So not only does this item increase our max HP and damage just on the item itself, and the amount of money that we get every wave from having more enemies to kill that can drop money, it also makes us safer. It seems like it's going to make you be more dangerous, but because we are a lifesteal build, we want to be constantly attacking to refill our health, and we want to be constantly dropping consumables from enemies as well, so having more enemies helps with that also. Grab the Slingshot here, and then I'm going to reroll. Ugly Tooth I'm still going to pass on, but I'll definitely take a Leather Vest, getting up to 30% dodge and 4 armor. Our armor is still pretty low, so I'd like to increase that. We will combine and buy another Slingshot. Stone Skin we don't need. We don't have that much armor, and our max HP is fine. And I'm actually going to pass on the Schmoop as well for that reason. Gonna reroll once. For 25, though, the rerolls are getting too expensive, so we're going to go to the next wave. So these blobfish, they spawn lampreys and a curse alien when you kill them. And if you kill them with a melee weapon, they spawn 2 lampreys. If you kill them with a ranged weapon, they spawn 4 lampreys. This is one of the reasons that playing ranged weapons is a little harder in the Abyss than it is sort of naturally in Crash Zone. But if your damage is high enough, spawning 4 lampreys is actually an upside, because again, more enemies means more money. So as long as we have the damage to consistently kill the lampreys quickly, having a ranged weapon against the blobfish there is a pretty big boost to our economy. Or I guess a small boost, but a welcome boost to our economy. That's reliant on having high damage, but you should be striving when you're building your character to make sure that you kill the enemies efficiently. So for most characters, getting multiple lamprey spawns is something that you're actually pretty happy about. Take the armor and the max HP here, and then glasses. I don't value range at all, pretty much. I will take the glasses here because it's a unique level 1 item. If we happen to roll into fairy, that could be useful. And I mean, the range is okay. It does something, but in general, I think you can safely ignore this number entirely in like 90% of runs. And if you just forget that this stat exists, you will be better at this game most of the time. I'm going to take the dodge here because I'd like to get to dodge cap. Saltwater. This can boost our movement speed. It is 3% attack speed, which I would like to increase, but I don't think we care that much about it. I don't think we care about the Sunken Bell that much either. So I'm just going to reroll past all of this and look for items that we want more. Foil is kind of nice, and we did buy the earlier knockback. So this is only 9% damage, but for 165, 9% damage isn't awful. It's not a great ratio, but it's fine. And if we buy more knockback, or ideally more coils, this can increase our percent damage a lot. Our percent damage is also quite low right now, so boosts to that help our overall damage output a ton. I'll buy the cake. I'm going to take the garden because it's at a slight discount, and we do have a jerky, so the garden is useful. The shackles, I don't really care about these stats, and capping our move speed at 5 is definitely a real downside. Jetpack is great, and we'll take the baby gecko as well. We'll do one more reroll here, and I'll lock in another blindfold. All these blindfolds are nice. They're getting us to dodge cap, and also crit chance is a pretty big increase to our damage output. Leaving all of those consumables on the ground over there that the garden is going to generate, because then if we need a quick heal, we can run over and grab a bunch of them at once. The jerky will then just heal us back to full. I will say I need a little bit more damage. That cursed walrus lived a lot longer than I'd have liked it to. And cursed enemies do have more health, so you do need higher damage to compensate. here you can see why I say that this map has lower economy in general. We made 500 materials on wave 14, which sounds about right for what you would make on Crash Zone, right? But 120 of that came from our harvesting. So without the harvesting, we would be in a real economic hole, which is why it's so important to get economy stats on this map. I would love the 2 armor, but I think we've got to take 9 speed here. My movement speed was only 5%, and I really want to improve that. Take the jetpack and the blindfold, and that gets me to almost dodge cap already. We'll take the metal plate, reroll here. Coffee, of course, is great, as always. I'm going to reroll one more time and see if we can get anything else good. We'll take a ritual. Do I lock a garden? I don't think I'm that worried about locking the garden, but I'm happy about all of those. The piercing shots are going to be really nice for the Horde wave, so this is going to help us clear these enemies much more easily. Those pufferfish as well will explode into projectiles if you kill them with a ranged weapon. If you kill them with a melee weapon, no projectiles spawn. But if you kill them with a ranged weapon, which of course we have, projectiles do spawn. So there are a couple enemies on this map that have different effects depending on what kind of weapon you're using, and it's very important to be aware of those. Those and the blobfish are the main ones. Our AoE damage is not as high as I would like. This is because we don't have great attack speed, and I have no way to just kill groups of enemies. So we're going to kind of struggle with this wave a little bit. But we should still make decent money. And Slingshot does sometimes struggle with Horde waves just because the bounces aren't the same as true AoE damage. So while we do hit multiple enemies, it's not as good as if we had like an explosion damage or something. But we were very happily able to live through the wave, and that's what matters the most. We will then grab some more armor here. I don't really need more piercing. The Horde wave is already over, so I don't really need any more AoE damage, but I will take all of this. Let's roll. Roll again. Gonna keep upgrading my slingshots, and we'll get a duct tape as well. Cyclops worm is great. Our percent damage, like I said, is quite low, so that's a pretty big boost to our damage output. And we don't need more piercing shots still, but of course we're very happy to grab a poisonous tonic. For 35, I think that's too expensive a reroll, so we're just going to save our money. These enemies, so these towers, the stargazers, the big round guys who drool a lot, are going to run, these guys here, are going to run towards the towers. If they get there, it's going to start spawning a mini-boss, so you want to kill them before they get there. But if you kill the tower before you kill the Stargazer gets mad, which makes sense because you just broke his house. And so you can see here, they get buffed. That increases their damage a lot, especially if it's a cursed Stargazer. That can be very dangerous for low damage output builds. So you really need to be careful about that. This weapon, of course, does a lot of damage randomly around the map. So we don't really get to choose whether we're killing which of them we're killing first. But if you have a choice, you should try to kill the fish before you kill his house. Wave 16 also has a lot of curse aliens. They spawn around the edge of the map, and you can see we got a lot of curse because of that. We were killing them pretty efficiently just with the bouncing shots. So that's a good way to boost your curse in the late game and try to make sure you get some more powerful cursed items before the end of the game. I think we have the damage to both kill the elite and kill 2 loot aliens, so I'll grab the lure, I'll take a whistle, see if we can get even more loot aliens, and then we will upgrade our slingshot. Crown, it's probably too late for Crown to pay off on, we wouldn't be able to get it until wave 18, so it would only tick twice. If you get this earlier, of course, it's a huge amount of bonus stats. Pearl, similarly, we don't have enough luck to make it efficient to buy the Pearl, and a 3% chance of finding a pearl is just not very high, so you're not expecting to find more pearls, and you should evaluate this item as to whether it's good on the merits in and of itself, rather than the potential chance at getting more pearls. Okay, obviously we're very happy to get a leveled up slingshot here, but this is actually kind of an interesting one. So I want to get this slingshot to level 3. Because I could buy the level 1 to get a level 2, buy the level 2 to get a level 3 cursed slingshot. But I can't do both of those before I fight the elite. So the question is, do I think I need this cursed slingshot to fight the elite? Because if I do, I'll sell the level 1 and then buy the level 2. But if I don't need it, then I can wait 1 round and get an upgraded cursed weapon. I think I'm going to wait 1 round. We'll buy the slingshot here, lock this, and lock this. And I think we will have the damage to kill the elite, even without a second cursed weapon here. We'll see if I'm right about that. This is the hardest elite that you can get. So it just makes a lot of projectiles, and it follows you very aggressively. So it's very hard to move against it. It's so it's going to really constrain our movement to these close circles. You want to stay very near it so that you're constantly attacking it. And if you are holding still, its projectiles won't hit you. So you just want to be away from it to where it itself won't run into you, but you can also remain still where the projectiles won't hit you. So that kind of tapping movement, I didn't do it perfectly. I took a couple hits, but if you do that kind of spacing, then you can stay where that elite can't get you. I think that elite is by far the hardest of the Abyss elites, because it really constrains your ability to move around the map. 5 crates this wave also, which is pretty nice. Coral. So coral's a really interesting item. You can, similar to playing the soldier, you can just tap your movement keys to stutter step, and you get the regeneration even during the very short periods of time that leaves you standing still. So you can get a lot of value out of this. For this character, we're not really using regeneration, so I'm going to recycle it. Also, I personally don't enjoy doing that, so I usually just skip the coral, just because I find the gameplay kind of tedious. But it's worth noting that it's a very efficient healing source if you're willing to stutter step around. Grind's Magical Leaf, even this late, is going to be good. We get the wave 18 and 19 tick, so we're basically getting 6 HP, 2 regen, and 2 lifesteal out of it, which is a totally reasonable item. Alien Baby, we're going to recycle. We don't really need more max HP. 64 is fine. We would take a little bit more, but I really don't want to increase enemy health. Then we'll take some ranged damage, and we'll take another cursed item. Pretty much any cursed item that you see, you should grab. If it's even remotely reasonable for your character, you should just pick it up. Because curse is so good just to have that basically any item with curse, even if the other stats aren't useful, the curse itself is useful enough that you should just buy the item. Do I want luck? I'll just take some crit chance. I just want to increase my damage output. And then here we get to upgrade to a cursed slingshot, take a cursed wheat as well. Particle Accelerator, really fun weapon. Not for this build, but it's a fun weapon. Do I want the Missile? Missile has bonus damage, but costs me attack speed. Usually not a great trade. This character, though, our percent damage is really low, so I think I am going to take it. Scope, similarly, the flat range damage for minus attack speed is usually not a great trade. And for this character, I think we're going to pass on it because 7% attack speed is just so much to lose. I don't know if the bag would pay for itself. I don't think it would, but I'm just going to take it for science. I think this is probably not going to be great because we only get wave 18 and 19 for it to make back the 51 materials that I spent on it. And, of course, that means I'm not spending those materials on something that actually helps. But I'm just curious, so I'm buying it for science. Take some bonus movement speed, because 26% is fine, but a little faster will just make it easier to play against the bosses. So we need to make... we need to get, like, 4 crates in the next 2 waves for the bag to pay... just to pay off what I spent on it. I would need to get, like, 7 or 8 crates before I felt like the bag actually made us a profit that made it worth buying, because not having the money that we spent on it this wave is a real penalty. You can't just look at the total numbers of materials for economy items like bag. It has to actually really make way more than you spent on it to be useful. Now, bag is such a good item that it almost always does, but if you get it really, really late, then that might not be the case. Going into wave 19, you know what? I'm going to take the Weird Ghost just for fun, and also because a little more max HP in the boss wave will be nice, and I'm really not worried about taking a hit here. We've got very good healing, so we should heal back up very quickly. We'll take the dodge to get to dodge cap. Then I'm going to go ahead and get my level 4 cursed slingshot and buy another slingshot, take some damage and move speed, and then roll, upgrade the slingshot. Yeah, I'll take another Weird Ghost, and we'll take another missile. I do want more attack speed if we can find it, but that's fine. We also, I think our bags got us no crates that last wave, so the bag will not have paid for itself. This is the good object lesson in why I think you should buy Weird Ghost more than you're probably buying it. It almost never causes an issue if your build has adequate healing. See there, we didn't have to alter our playstyle at all, and we're already back to full health with no problems. And it's a very efficient source of maximum hit points. People, I think, are often afraid of it because it does a scary thing. It reduces your HP to 1. But that type of item you can often just play around. Making okay money on wave 19 here. I feel like we could be doing better, but 845 is not terrible. Wave 19 is typically the big step down in difficulty compared to the previous like 3 waves or so in the Abyss, and also has a lot of material drops in it, so you should really be able to make a lot of money on wave 19, and that will help you set up for the boss wave. I will take Baby Elephant. I guess when it shows up like this, I'll just take the 3% attack speed. We'll take 2 ranged damage here, take some lifesteal, roll. Can't really use that slingshot, but we can always use damage and lifesteal. The cursed cyberball, sure, I'll grab that. We'll take some ranged damage again. Not my preferred attack stat right now. I really want I want small magazine specifically. This is like the best item we could have possibly found because it boosts all the stats we need, but attack speed especially. And so this is almost always the best item in the game when you're playing a ranged damage build. So we're very, very happy to see that. And let's see if we can kill the bosses here. It's a very clean run, I would say, in general. On the Abyss, you want to focus down the whale boss first. It's the more dangerous of the two. Now with slingshots, we are sort of evenly damaging both of them, so mostly we don't have a choice of which one we're focusing, but when you do have a choice, kill the whale boss first, because it just creates all these fields of projectiles around the map, and these circles of attacks, and it charges at you, so it's just the more dangerous of the two bosses. If you kill it first, it makes it just easier to win. Got that guy, and then this boss is relatively safe to fight. If you just run around it in a circle, it never hits you. Then once it starts doing this spiral attack, you just want to move your circle close to it, and again, as long as you just move in a tight spiral around it, the serpent boss can never hit you, which is why I suggest killing the whale boss first, because it's very easy to dodge the serpent boss once you know that tech. Alright, that was a very clean run for the well-rounded, as you would hope. I mean, this is a super strong character with an extremely strong weapon, so if we'd struggled with this build, that would be embarrassing. Taking a look at our items here, the bags gave us 825, obviously always paying off really well. The Pocket Factory was not necessary and did slow the build down a little bit, but I love Pocket Factory, so no regrets. The Dangerous Bunny, only 177 materials. That's a little low, actually, but still paid for itself. More than doubled what we spent on it, so it's fine. Tentacle gave us 74 healing. Metal Detector also gave us 177, and some bonus luck. So, worked out pretty well. Actually, identical income from the Metal Detector and the Dangerous Bunny. That's funny. Coupon 245, so Coupon obviously very efficient there. The Weird Ghosts got us up to 82 HP, which is good. This Cyberball and the Cursed Cyberball did 10k damage. Not the most impressive, but still decent overall. The Coils ended up with only 6% bonus damage, or Coil, singular, ended up with only 6% bonus damage, but it was fine. And this baby elephant that we got at the end only did 739 damage, excuse me. But yeah, overall, that's just how you want to play a run in the Abyss. Get very good healing early, which we did with Lifesteal and with Jerky, and get a decent amount of armor and defensive stats. If you can get to 60 dodge, that's helpful as well. Make certain that you have very high harvesting, and that will carry your economy through the weaker economy of this map. And then you can get powerful cursed items, in this case, slingshots and things like the wheat, in order to close out the run, because cursed items are all you need usually to make it to the end game. Alright, my friends, I hope that you enjoyed this look at Abyssal Terrors with a well-rounded, and I guess that brings us up to a 21 win streak with random weapons. Not that this was a particularly onerous one. Of course, if you have enjoyed the video, feel free to leave a comment and hit like. Helps me out a ton with the algorithm, so I appreciate you taking the time to do that. And you can subscribe to my channel for more Brotato and other strategy game analysis. Cheers, folks. I'll catch you next time.